So, it's list week time, my best time of the year. I love it because it's in between Christmas and New Year's, and I get to kind of nerd out on 12 months worth of music and share some stuff that I'm super passionate about. My list usually is, fairly extensive and covers a huge array of spaces, but I thought this year I'd do something different and also record something to share a bit of insight into, I guess, my top 20. I think lists are fantastic because for me, I just use them as a way to gauge how I'm growing as a music fan and a music listener. It helps me kind of keep on top of things and go from year to year with an open mind and discover some great artists along the way. So yeah, with that being said, let's get into it. I want to go through my top 20 list, and I think there's a lot of unique artists here and a unique sound, so you might discover something that you're interested in and you might want to take with you into the new year. In number 20, we have Crystal Clear's The Division EP. This is an electronic dance record. It has probably my favorite track of the entire summer. It sounds like 80s nostalgic synthwave and acid house mixed together, so definitely check that out. Next, we have Claire Lafoute's Mojo EP, and this is one that I discovered very recently, and it came out in November, I believe. She's a vocalist out of Belgium and has such a unique voice. The composition and the sounds around her are super lush, super well produced, and if you're looking for something that balances alternative R&B, soul, and even contemporary pop music, this is right down your alley. Next, we have the internet's Hive Mind, and I don't need to go into detail with this. Since this has been on my rotation and hasn't left. It's such a solid album, and I love the band and I love the vocals on it. Next we have in number 17 is Wildflower from rapper Nestle, and he's a guy I've been following since he put stuff out on SoundCloud. And I really feel that's probably one of the few records where I think people have overlooked this year, just because it's very easy to pigeonhole him and generalize him as being, just another SoundCloud rapper. That, if you pay a bit more closer attention, you can see that he has a lot of unique things to offer to rap in general. Going from one branch of hip-hop to the next. Actually, no, not even hip-hop. This is completely in a different space. This is one of Trickpoint Never's Age Of. So this is an experimental electronic album, actually. So this electronic album is something that I have to say, took me a couple weeks to get into, and it really is. It's bordering on the fence between what's accessible to your average listener. But what makes this truly unique is this balance that it always maintains, which is between a very baroque and classical style of songwriting with a very forward-thinking and electronic instrumentation. Number 15 is a fantastic album. It's of course Prequel from anthemic rock band Ghost, and this is something where they've already put out 2-3 albums and I've loved all of it, but I think Prequel is kind of where they're tightening the screws and really defining their sound a lot more clearly. I think what makes Prequel amazing is that I've showed this band and I've made a few of my friends listen to it, and they have a huge gothic and heavy metal aesthetic that kind of puts people off from approaching them. But for people who appreciate the performance aspect and the theatrical nature of Broadway, there's tremendous amounts of things to appreciate about their sound and performance. In number 14, we have something for the old school hip hop heads, which is the collaborative album between Sourface and Doom, or MF Doom. This album, I could spend 20 minutes nerding out over what I love about the lyricism, what I love about the intricacies in their word plays and the entire narrative of the project, but if you're a fan of old school hip hop, you have to check that out, and I'd assume it's in your top 10 list for sure. And yeah, there we go. Here we have Gunna's DS3, or Drip Season 3. This is from one branch of hip hop to the next. This one, to me, is another one where I think a lot of lists overlook this, just because since DS3 came out, Gunna and Lil Baby have been riding this wave. But I look at DS3 as kind of the catalyst for this, and perhaps the most pure form of this style. To me, the first 5-6 tracks on this are iconic in the sense of solidifying that sound that Gunna has been so well known for. Number 12, we have another hip hop album, which is Kids See Ghosts. I don't know if all my writing is backwards, but fuck it. Kids See Ghosts, I can't say much about it. There's a reason why it's on so many people's year-end list. Kanye West and Kid Cudi delivered on a fantastic project. Number 11 is another low-flying album. This is Lion Sphere's A Moving Sun. They're an indie rock band out of Germany, and I think what really impressed me about this was how well polished and how well defined their sound is for a sound and a space that, for me, I find kind of gets a bit boring after a few bands at the top. They did a great job of kind of defining their own sound, and to me, I guess 2018's been a year where I've started to look at foreign markets for bands that are doing interesting things with alternative rock and indie rock, and Lion Sphere is one of the best at it. Getting into our top 10 now, we have Mall Grab's How the Dogs Chill Volume 1. And this is, breaking into my top 10, it's a fantastic record. It's only 4 tracks long, and for people who know Mall Grab, he's a fantastic music producer and a DJ. But I think, this trajectory that he's had of starting in lo-fi house and breaking into the tech house, the breaks, and now techno as well, this is purely, it's ecstasy for anyone who's a fan of that, just because you really get to see him exercise his creative muscles in this. Fantastic record. Number 9, we have one that is making waves on a lot of people's list, which is Natalia Lafourcade's Muses 2. This is an album where, I always struggle to describe it. I mean, people have said it feels like, such a warm hug. It feels like such a welcoming sound. But, they're all correct. She has such a soft voice. There's a level of intimacy, a level of, closeness that you feel with this album and her performance that, to me, it's just second to none almost in terms of stuff that's come out this year. And also, if you do like this, check out the first one. I know Muses 1 was voted the Latin Album of the Year last year, so she's on a bit of a hot streak. Number 8, we're getting a bit more into the heavier stuff. This is Golgotha Remains from Australia with their Perverse Offerings to the Void. And this is a record where, the first time I heard it, and I knew that this was a debut album that had come out of there, it completely floored me. I mean, everything from the sound, the aesthetic, the balance, and the mix was perfect. And these guys put out, they kind of, I don't want to say kickstarted, but they have perfected this balance in technical death metal, but having a very old school production aspect to it that's been making a resurgence. It's very grimy, but the mix is fantastic. It's gargling, it's churning, but the vocals cut through like a knife. Fantastic album. I've enjoyed it tremendously. Number 7, this is a surprise to me. So I've seen Idols make a lot of rounds, but to me, Viagra Boys have been doing a tremendous amount of, unappreciated work in the punk / rockabilly scene, if you could even call them that. Viagra Boys, they have kind of broken into the scene from Sweden, and they have this unique sound to their punk rock, which is, very edgy, very rockabilly, and has, a vibe that I would almost describe as dancey, but there's a lot of aggression and a lot of things to appreciate. Perhaps on the other side of the scale is Mild Orange with their Foreplay album. And this is perhaps the total opposite of it. There's nothing aggressive about this. It's such a sweet indie rock album. And to me, this is a quality album that's coming out, I believe, New Zealand. And Foreplay is one of those records that when I heard it, I honestly thought it would be my favorite record of the year. It's that good. So if you're into indie rock and you haven't heard of it, definitely check it out. Number 5, we're getting deeper into the heavier stuff, and I think this is the last one, maybe 1 or 2 left. This is Bong Ripper's Terminal. Wow. These guys blew me away. I mean, they've been on a hot streak, and I've kind of been disappointed that I haven't heard more people talk about this. Bong Ripper's Terminal is only 2 tracks, Slow and Death. And that's exactly what it is that if you're into your sludge and doom metal, no one does it better. But I found that Terminal is just, they have mastered their craft in terms of production and songwriting, and Terminal is just up there. Now we're getting into, I guess, our top 5, and that's number 5. This is number 4. And, I really think this is a personal favorite of mine, which is Carnes Hill's SRB Separation Complete, the dark print. So he put out 2. He put the dark print and the blueprint out this. And for those of you who don't know, Carnes Hill is a producer that's kind of been at the helm of a lot of the drill music coming out of the UK scene. And, to me, I feel like any list for 2018 would be incomplete without some kind of nod towards all the amazing stuff that's been happening in the UK drill scene. And Carnes Hill has been the catalyst for that. If you look at, all the stuff that he's put out over the last 2-3 years, all the groups that he supported, all the MCs he's supported with his production, it's up there. And SRB Separation Complete sees pretty much an all-star lineup of drill artists coming out to support his production, and he's just a monster at what he does. Shout out to MK the Plug and M1 on the beat as well. And in number 3 is Georgia Smith's fantastic album Lost and Found, and this is stunning R&B album. It might just be my favorite R&B release of the entire year. To me, I've been waiting for her to kind of break into the scene for so long, and to see her put out such a high quality project that suits her so well and kind of pushes her forward is just amazing to see. Funny enough, I think in 2017, Kalela's Blue Lights was my favorite single of the year, and Georgia Smith has a song called Blue Light, which I think is also a standout piece this year. So a slight bit of coincidence there that I'm more than happy for. I'm so looking forward to what she puts out next. In number 2 spot, we have the last of my heavier albums, which is Icelandic band Svartmom's self-titled album. And this is, a flawless album from start to finish in terms of, just delivering boatloads of quality. They play atmospheric black metal, very akin to that of Wolves in the Throne Room. But as Wolves in the Throne Room have grown and evolved their sound as well, I've missed it tremendously. And the first time I heard Svartmom, I was floored completely. These guys do such a good job of coming off with this atmospheric sound that's very beautiful, that's very, lush and expansive, but at the same time their sound and delivery is very dark, gritty, and rigid, that it strikes such a perfect balance that if you're into that style, you have to check it out. And it's a stunning album. And in fact, this has been on my rotation perhaps the longest out of all my releases on this list, only to be outdone by what's on my number 1 album of the year. And this is one that I'll talk about a bit more, is that I was so shocked to see it not be on many lists for end of the year lists, just because to me, looking at this from the outside and appreciating it as a fan, it truly is a moment, and it's such a big project for the artist as well as the scene in general, that this album is severely underrated now that I look at the recognition it's getting outside of the UK. This did in fact win the best project of the year at the Rated Awards in the UK, but outside of it, I think it deserves way more recognition, and that's also why it's in my number 1 spot. That is of course the fantastic album Crop Circle from UK artist Nines. And this is, everything from the production, the writing, the delivery, the aesthetic, to even the cover art and the film that came out with it is fantastic and outdoes everyone else in terms of, just execution and the quality that's there. Nines is not someone who's new to the scene. He's been on it for a while, and that just makes it even more better to experience this moment with him and with, the entire scene. To me, I think Crop Circle definitely has the potential to be, cornerstone in UK hip-hop for the next 5 to 6 years. I think people would look at it the similar way people look at something like Lose Yourself or Get Rich or Die Trying from 50 Cent. It's that good, and, if you haven't heard it, you need to appreciate it, and, it's a tremendous project. With that being said, that's my top 20. I do have an extensive list that I will be attaching to wherever I post this. It should be about 50 to 100 projects that are equally as diverse, equally as interesting, and equally deserve to be checked out. So if you're looking for kind of new music, definitely check those things out. And hopefully you'll find something that you like. You'll find some artists, some sounds that are new, that are different, that you'll take with you into 2019. 2018's been fantastic in my opinion in terms of music and diversity that's been offered. And I can't wait to kind of see what 2019 has to offer. And yeah, with that being said, I guess I'll do one of these next year, and I'll see you then. Cheers.